Hello, everyone. I'm Victoria Hepburn, and I'm excited to share with you today how to supercharge your team communication. My goal is to share with you some of the information and energy that I bring to my speaking programs to help leaders, corporate meeting planners, and conference coordinators supercharge your team communication in today's remote and hybrid work environments. In this video, I've also included a resource sheet as a special gift to you. This resource sheet is designed to help you supercharge your team communication and build stronger relationships that foster trust among colleagues, even in a remote work setting. Now, here are some of the essential tips to help you get started. First, it's important now more than ever to be present and in the moment with the people we're engaging with. So remember to practice active listening during remote meetings, and remember to acknowledge and validate your colleagues' efforts. Making an effort to get to know your colleagues personally by sharing experiences beyond work is critical to building trust and empathy, because it's important for us to see each other as human beings and to humanize each other's experiences. Now, this doesn't have to be a big production. It could just be someone sharing a struggle that they're going through and you just saying, sounds like you worked really hard on that. And they'll say, yes, I did. And they'll feel seen in that moment. And as long as you say it with a tone that is not hurried or rushed, and it sounds like you're in the conversation, over time, these little things are what build trust. Also, another thing that is a huge trust builder is when you're on a call to not give any perception that you're distracted. So even though a lot of us are double, triple booked in meetings, it's really critical that the people in front of you are the most important people you're talking to at that moment. Because if they don't feel that you're connecting to them, if they feel like you're not listening, they will disconnect. So whether you have cameras on or off or not, that's irrelevant. It's your attention that matters. We're in an attention economy, right? Billions of dollars are made based on how much people scroll and look at things. And it's important to remember that we need to give each other our attention as humans in order to build trust and connection. And speaking of how much we scroll, we need to allocate time for conversations, especially the informal conversations that create meaningful connections. In a remote work environment, you have to be intentional. You have to set up time. You have to reach out and go beyond asynchronous tools in order to build that connection. Now, it could be as simple as having some time before the meeting where you touch base with everybody once they join the call, or it could be having time in your one-on-ones with your direct reports to check in and say, how are things going? What's new with you? Whatever you do, make sure you're creating this time for human conversation and allowing people to share in a safe environment. The next thing that I recommend to boost your team communication is to share your personal experiences, to make an effort to get to know your colleagues personally. And I like to say it's about sharing work-appropriate stories about your life, what you like to do, where you like to go. So if you love travel, talk about a trip you're planning with a friend. If you have kids, sharing kids' stories is usually funny, for me anyway. I always have a story like, we went hiking and my toddler decided to stop walking after 20 minutes, so my arms are still noodles. Things like that help show that you're a human being. And it also prompts people to share. But if they don't, that's okay too. Really, it's about you learning to share about yourself and to humanize you to them. So you're not a leader and an overlord. You're a human person who deserves their trust, who deserves more than just to be feared or respected because of their title. And it expands your relationship. And you can't build trust without people seeing you as part of them and a part of their organization. And even though you work for the same company, psychologically, you have to work to be on the same team. The next thing I would like to mention is establishing clear expectations and boundaries for remote work relationships. It's important for everyone to know what's expected of them. And too often we get busy and we don't have time to check in with people to see how they're performing to their goals. And check-ins often get distilled down to how many hours you put in or how many reports you send out, something quantifiable, as opposed to how much we're moving towards the actual goal. It's critical to make sure that people have the time to turn off, that they know it's okay to rest and hydrate and eat and spend time with the people who energize them beyond work. Because if you don't have that expectation for people to have boundaries, they're going to be more likely to burn out trying to meet the business demand. Now, some people might think that's great. They're dedicated, they're committed, but also they're more likely to have health issues that will make them drop out of your business at the least opportune times. By giving people regular time to disconnect, it actually helps build a better work-life harmony, because balance is impossible. Harmony is what we're all striving for. Allowing them to have a more structured routine. Now, if people have caregiving responsibilities for parents, children, friends, that is a huge help. And it also allows people to have interests and hobbies and networks beyond work that fuel their passion and that fuel their respect and appreciation for their work. I know personally, when I worked in corporate sales and I was able to be I was on the road a lot, I was also able to be there for my grandparents, who we all pitched in to caregive. And, if one was getting released from the hospital or had a doctor's appointment, I could go into Queens, accompany them, knowing that I could still get my work done. I could still have my meetings. I could still do everything because I was remote. And because I had an office, I could still be effective and support my family. So when it came to catching red eyes and working all-nighters, I was 100% there for it because my organization supported me. It's a real intangible benefit you get when you're able to communicate your expectations for employees to do good work and to determine what that good work is up front. Now, another thing that often gets left behind in team communications, and using all these great virtual collaboration tools we have, is policy or procedure of how we're going to use the tools to stay connected to colleagues and stakeholders. What's realistic for response times for email or any kind of asynchronous tools like instant messaging or text messaging. Let's get clear on what that means, because a lot of the upset that comes from colleagues is like, I texted and they didn't respond, or I called and they never got back to me. Or some people believe in leaving voicemails, some people don't. Some people believe that a text means you immediately respond, and some people believe email has a week-long shelf life. Whatever it is for your business, clearly time is of the essence. What is it that you need to make sure your team is doing so that their internal communication is synced up and you lower conflict? Utilizing virtual collaboration tools to stay connected and communicate effectively and in alignment with expectations lowers friction, lowers the time it takes to get a decision, the time it takes to get a response, because you're speaking to people how they want to be spoken to. And when you can, absolutely turn your camera on in video conferences. It can humanize you and strengthen connections, but it can also add distractions. If you're someone who gets nervous being on camera, or if you feel judged because people start talking about what's behind you or who's at your location, it can actually raise the nerves. So recognize that there are other ways people can be engaged. I date back to the times when we would get on teleconferences for our weekly team meetings. And in order to humanize us and engage us at the start of calls, this one manager I had would ask us to go around call and just share a win or a work in progress that we find interesting or something that kicked our butts. Whatever it was, just share it. And so if someone won a big deal or if they learned something, they would share it. And then we'd know, oh, I should go and talk to Chris because he's dealt with the same customer issue. Or I should go talk to Jen because it sounds like she has some ideas that could be helpful for my situation. So it really engaged us in peer-to-peer mentoring. And I think that was his goal, but really he wanted to highlight our successes and all that other stuff. But that was an unintended consequence. So think about the ways that you can create that culture on your calls, because after all, meetings should be about collaboration and solutions, not just updates. Updates are emails nowadays. We really want to use that face time to move the organization forward. Brainstorming can be done individually, and then you can submit and come together and pick the best ideas. That's actually faster than a brainstorming session for 2 hours. So just look at how you use meetings and what can be done differently. And in my Turnaround Toxic Teams program, that's a lot of what we do is we look at how we can change things and make them different, to realign expectations and rethink how we operate, how leaders are running meetings. We can change the focus from the old ways of top down, this is the agenda, we're just updates, usually over someone's lunch hour. And we don't really add value back that employees actually value, that creates connection, that creates collaboration. Again, trying to humanize you and strengthen your connections means we have to think about work differently. Also, we have to be mindful about cultural differences when communicating with colleagues of different backgrounds. If we're working across continents or across countries, even across this country here in the US, there are differences in how we speak, how we engage one another, and how we really want to be spoken to. And whether we dive right into the business or we want to have some chit chat, or if we're willing to answer direct questions, that all varies based on our backgrounds. And being respectful of customs and expectations is critical to building trust, because respect for someone else's customs, even if it comes down to just being quiet and showing appreciation, or if they start chit-chatting, you don't just roll your eyes, you respect them and kind of go with it. Those are all things that can really help you move the relationship forward and help your team connect on that level. Now, working remotely, I've had the privilege to work cross-culturally, and I worked with companies that were based in Japan, and I would visit the US to visit their manufacturing partners, and I would be one of those visits. And I had to adjust to the fact that a senior leader spoke to one of his direct reports, and that direct report would then speak to me. And so when I spoke back, I had to speak to her, and then she spoke to him. Now, I know average day-to-day communication is not like that, but that is literally how we had to run every single conference call that I was on, and we were on weekly calls. It's just the little adaptations we have to make that help build connection and trust, and it also allows us all to be our best selves. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about is something that we don't do in business quite enough, especially because we're so busy, which is showing appreciation for one another, our gratitude for what our colleagues do. Now, a simple thank you goes a long way. Also, closing the loop when someone gives you advice or support on something and saying, thanks to your effort, I was able to achieve this great result. That's the formula. Thanks to your effort here, insert their effort here, I was able to achieve this great result. I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time. Those kind of things go a long way when said with sincerity and honesty, and they're very specific. And you want to make sure that you are celebrating the successes and the milestones with your colleagues. Now, I've worked in organizations that established pride and quality type awards where peers, like I could say to my quality my quality assistance person, thank you so much for getting those reports together. You went above and beyond. My client had a very short timeline that they gave us, and you were able to provide everything they needed. Thank you. And because that's kind of a drop everything, get on this request, we were able to grant them an award. And it would go through, we'd have to put it through a system, and then the admin would unlock this cabinet and they would be able to choose a prize for the level of thank you. That was like the lowest level of thank you. The big thank yous were when they saved a deal, or there was some opportunity that was uncovered, or a much larger undertaking that required research and collaboration in multiple meetings. And when I worked in manufacturing, we literally had pride and quality gift bags. As a manufacturing supervisor, I could award that gift bag to anyone who went above and beyond on my shift. So that bag was like a company swag bag. It had all this different, t-shirt, a hat, the bag itself, and there were movie tickets inside. So I was able to give that many times when people saved batches and they were able to meet critical deadlines, and everybody got their hustle on. And we had a mildly contentious environment at times. So I loved giving those out because that meant that people were overcoming all of the situations. In the fast-paced world of business, effective team communication is more critical than ever. My mission is simple: to help corporate leaders cut conflict, poor communication, and wasted time, and in doing so, boost results and employee engagement. Now, as a leadership speaker, I offer a range of signature programs such as profitable remote relationships, turn around toxic teams, boost team leadership success, boost confident collaboration, remote work secrets, and pressure makes diamonds. These programs provide practical tools and strategies to overcome challenges in your remote and hybrid teams. Now, I speak on these things because I enjoyed a nearly 20-year corporate career in which I won awards, burned myself out, and lived to tell the tale. And in the process, I learned a lot of what it takes not just to survive, but to thrive on corporate teams while working remote and hybrid. I was actually either remote or hybrid for the last 10 years of my career. So I learned a lot of tools that I am now sharing with leaders and their teams so they can improve their effectiveness. I overlay the research that has been done in organizational psychology, management, and just overall surveys of what actually works in business to engage employees and keep people motivated and working. So that's what I bring to you. And so if you want to dive deeper into these critical leadership skills for your organization, I invite you to book a speaker discovery call with me. Let's explore how my programs can help you cut conflict, boost collaboration, and maximize results in your remote and hybrid teams. I look forward to helping you achieve greater success and stronger connections in your work environment, wherever it is. Take care.